with Ford.
Race day, and more than 200,000 ticket holders were soon in position. The biggest crowd for any Grand Prix, anytime, anywhere. Various diversions were laid on to keep them happy. In Australia, bagpipes count as entertainment instead of torture. Pit stop practice. Like every other team, Jordan would have to bring their cars in at least twice for fuel and tires, and the speed in and out of the pits could make all the difference. A car stationary for 10 seconds gives away almost half a mile to a car that's moving, so the pressure to keep the stop short is enormous. And Jordan's didn't want another downer today. They'd had too many. In the paddock behind the pits, the experts had only one thing on their minds. At exactly what point on the circuit would Hill and Schumacher expensively eliminate each other as a prelude to the usual tight-lipped press statements and frosty glances? Damon was trying hard to look as if he didn't care very much about Schumi. Schumi was trying hard to look as if he didn't care very much about Damon. But this same race last year was when they had started bumping into each other. They had tried to share a corner when there was room for only one. This season, they had made a habit of it, starting at the British Grand Prix, where Damon had been perhaps a trifle optimistic about getting through on the inside. After the Belgian Grand Prix, each of them said it was the other's fault when Schumi was obliged to take an alternative route through France. In the Italian Grand Prix, they once again fell victim to mutual road rage. How much did they really hate each other? I had to know. Not even Bernie thought it possible to get them together in the same room to talk it over, but he promised to have a word in their respective ears. Whatever the word was, it must have worked in German as well as English. Dankeschön.
Bitteschön.
Have you two ever managed to laugh at anything together?
I think we did, yeah. But I don't remember it. We are not best friends doing everything together, but we respect each other, and much more than newspapers and television sometimes tell.
Damon, what do you really think of Michael?
Well, I think he's a very fine racing driver, in all honesty. I mean, I can't take anything away from what he does as a driver. The problems arise through this kind of barrier. I don't talk to Michael directly about what happens. You know, I get to hear about something that via the press, and then they come and ask you, what do you think of that? And then it goes backwards and forwards. You know, that's how sometimes these things get out of hand.
Michael, what do you really think of Damon?
I think we had fantastic racing this year and the year before. Close racing, and we entertained the public. That's what the people are looking for when they look at Formula One. That's what I'm looking for when I race a car. I want to fight with someone, and that's what he done to me. He made it difficult for me. Fortunately, I was able to be ahead after the fightings. That's what makes yourself certainly more happy. But I'm looking forward to the future, to have some more battles with him.
So what about the race?
And for me, I really want to go and win this last race. Go into the winter time with victory. That would be nice.
More victories. Yeah, it would be nice to get one, actually. I've had a barren patch, if you like, so the last race of the season does set you up nicely for the winter, so it would be nice to win here.
Well, perhaps you'd like to wish each other good luck for the race?
Yeah, I do.
Good luck, Mike.
That's what they said. When they got into their cars, we would see what they did. Outside, the razzmatazz was peaking to a climax. This would be the last Australian Grand Prix held in Adelaide, and the drivers were going to miss its relaxed spirit. In most cities at this stage of race day, they would rather lie down in their hotel rooms with a cold towel over their foreheads than go out on a parade lap so the paying public can see what they look like without their helmets. In the group photo, they exuded nothing but mutual admiration. Alesi obviously didn't mind a bit about Schumi taking his place at Ferrari next season for triple the salary. Damon didn't kick Schumy's chair even once. But behind their smiling faces, the drivers had already begun to forget which country they were in. Their minds were on the race, a country by itself. In the pit lane, Prince Edward was trying to sign up Damon to star opposite Schumacher in a situation comedy called Men Driving Badly. Drawing a blank, he went off to find Bernie and have a word in his ear. In the back of the pits, the drivers were at last free from the hoo-ha. A good result depends on tactics as much as on overall speed, and at their pre-race briefing, the Jordan team were planning their strategy.
What do you reckon, Eddie, on 3? Kill the brakes and do 2. There'll be no brakes left. What's the bit on? There'll be brakes left for 3.
They were discussing the vexed question of how many pit stops to make.
The extra fuel was going to put it over the edge.
Somebody over the edge?
Yeah.
Nobody knew what the other teams would do, but for Jordan's, the apparent choice was between 2 and 3 stops, and each option had potential problems.
Same as the Suzuka. There was just
The decision was to go for 3. The race was only half an hour away. All the cars were formed up on the grid. Here was a chance for the massed mass media and the privileged pass holders to get out there and pose casually while thousands of petrol heads looked on in envy. Berger pretended not to hear the massed female sighs aimed at him from the grandstands. Andrea was out there to remind Coulthard what it was all for. Alesi was still assuring everyone that he didn't care at all about the $24 million plus luncheon vouchers that Schumacher would be getting from Ferrari next season. I was in the middle of giving Eddie Irvine some advice about that first corner when he noticed that the Benetton team had a joke going, and Schumacher was so carried away with the Adelaide spirit that he forgot not to join in. Nobody except the team members is ever allowed to watch the race from the pit wall, but I had a word in Bernie's ear, and he said he'd see what he could do. Soon all the walk-on parts were written out, leaving nobody on stage except the stars. In the few seconds before the red light went green, every driver had to hold down 800 horsepower with 1 foot. Banzai, a total of 20,000 horses all heading for the stable door, with the pestiferous Coulthard getting the jump on Hill. Somewhere in the middle of it all, Irvine had already moved up a place. Hill did all that qualifying to get a clear run into open country, and Coulthard beat him to it. With Schumacher not far behind, the last thing Hill needed was an extra test of his nerve. Schumacher had muffed his start and had to chase Berger's Ferrari, but soon caught and passed him with daunting ease. Irvine was doing all right at this stage. So was Barrichello. Taki Inoue, famous for his offs, had an off. Still running a slightly irritating second to Coulthard, Hill opted for an early pit stop, a piece of clear-headed good tactics. Coulthard would also have to make a stop soon, and then it would be Hill's turn to go flat out while his teammate was stationary, so Hill might catch Coulthard on the road. When Coulthard came into the pits, this thought might have been preying on his mind. Something was. Exit Coulthard. Now he would be able to spend more time with Andrea. Barrichello was still going great guns in 8th place, but after an uncharacteristic mistake, he said a short word in Portuguese. Now he would be able to spend more time with the sponsors. The Minardi driver, Pedro Lamy, was in a race of his own, entertaining the crowd vastly. Now he would be able to spend more time with himself. Thanks to Bernie, I had a ringside seat for the unfolding drama. Schumacher came storming out from his pit stop. Alesi's flying Ferrari just managed to squeeze in front. Schumi was in a hurry to catch Damon, so he shaped up to overtake Alesi on the inside. That was when Damon lost his chance to hit Schumi. Alesi hit him instead. Both cars were fatally damaged. Alesi came in to retire. Maybe he had cared about Schumacher's salary after all. As Schumacher came in to retire, the thought arose that next year he wouldn't need other cars to put him out of the race. On past form, the Ferrari would be able to do that all by itself. Berger gave further proof of this shortly afterwards, when once again his prima donna Ferrari blew its top on a high note. All over the world, women's hearts went out to him like migrating birds. Sensationally, Eddie Irvine was all set to come third at least. After recent disappointments, a podium position for Jordan would do the team the world of good. But Eddie Jordan had seen something ominous in the readouts. I looked too and couldn't see anything. In the Jordan garage, the engineers could see everything. There was a glitch in the air valve grommet, or a grommet in the glitch. Eddie Jordan knew the word. You had to be a space scientist to fully understand, but whatever was wrong, Irvine had to come into the pits to have it fixed. Total panic ensued. The air bottle required to top up the glitch grommet declined to make itself available. It didn't matter. The glitch grommet was a goner anyway. It was one of those things, one of those thousand little things that all have to go right, or else the whole enterprise comes unstuck. Irvine was out of the race. Next year, he would be able to conk out on a bigger budget because he was joining Ferrari as Schumacher's teammate. For the Jordan team, it was another cruel disappointment.
The valve system in the end is worked by air, and there was a small leakage somewhere, and we tried to top it up a couple of times, and obviously it didn't work. It would have stayed going the first time, it stayed going for 2 laps, and when we topped it up the second time, it was just about over after 1 lap, so there was just no way.
Johnny Herbert, second spot in his grasp, lost it to a broken engine. So Irvine would have been second if he'd kept going. With the race turning into a demolition derby behind him, Damon Hill fled on to the checkered flag. It was a sweet fulfillment after a year of frustration. With a bit of assistance from a Lacey at the right moment, Damon had well and truly shown Schumi where to get off. To their own vast surprise, Olivier Panis and Gianni Morbidelli were up there with him, but 300 million viewers worldwide had their attention all on Damon. Next season, he would be staying with Williams at a greatly increased salary, and his chances of winning the World Championship would be excellent. For now, it was home to the kids and their crayons. Out front, the season was over. Back here, the next season had already started. Well prepared for his new position at Ferrari, Eddie Irvine told me he had already learned 2 Italian words, oversteery and understeery. Schumacher was wondering whether he really needs that private Boeing airliner he was planning to buy. The other drivers have been giving him a lot of stick about it, and really he's not that arrogant. He just knows he's better than anybody else. Andrea was telling Coulthard that when they got home to Monte Carlo, she would do the driving, if it was all the same to him. He took it quite well. When Alesi was told he might be earning less at Benetton next year than he had at Ferrari, his bubbling high spirits showed he didn't care a bit. Berger was going to Benetton too. The girls might not find the car quite such an attractive color, but it was still a steady job. The best way to get rich is to grow old. Barrichello was talking to Brazilian radio down the phone, telling them why he was staying at Jordan, because next year's car was going to be good. Mr. Jordan said so. While Eddie Jordan went on hustling, his team packed up for the long flight home. The Grand Prix circus was folding its tents, but for the people in the circus, it never really stops. It just moves on to another town. Like any other circus, it leaves a circle on the grass, and small boys making plans to run away and follow it to the ends of the earth, their heads full of dreams about being out there in the ring.
Next Wednesday at 10:40, you can see a musical celebration of the life of Sir Geraint Evans, Wales at the Wigmore.
is. Look, he's out. Oh, and a big moment for Mo Gugelmin.
Mark Blundell, I believe. Mark Blundell in only his second IndyCar start. A big moment. Hard contact up against the wall. He's moving about. He's okay. He's going to be able to get out of the car. Mark Blundell, his second IndyCar start. The first IndyCar start he had was not a good one, to say the least. Coming off turn 4 for the green flag at Miami, he looped it. And now here, just about 15 laps into the race, we'll get another look. There you see, under braking. Oh.
And he nearly took out his teammate there.
Very awkward.
That's why we had a little doubt as to who that was. He actually... Whoa, that's a big hit. But look how strong those cars are.
Oh,
yeah, no,
he got out of the car,
we're not
okay.
happy to see that. He got out of the car all right. I think that's Terry Trammell there from the IndyCar Medical Unit who's already with him. We hope Mark's all right. He said to me before this season that he's not yet happy on the ovals. He's had to start the season with the oval in Miami and then this race here. And oh, that's a big impact, guy.
That is a huge impact. A big problem we had last year with a lot of guys on the impact with the gear linkage was braking and then getting them in the thigh, hurting them in the thigh. A lot of guys went to a wire linkage. I don't know if the Pac West team was able to do that. And remember, Danny Sullivan, who drove this car last year, also had a huge impact, but that was high speed. We're talking 200 miles an hour.
We're talking nearly 200 miles an hour, and if nothing else, the belts and so on would have hurt Mark. I think it looks as though his legs are right, his shoulders and arms, and we hope...
Mark Blundell, of course, has signed a deal with Eurosport Television, and they'll be covering this race for him. But a disastrous start of the season for Mark Blundell. Zanardi leads over Moore, and Ribeiro, Dufran is 4th, and Vassar 5th.